Woo! What a race. Yeah, that was a fun one. Once again, just like last week at Bahrain, we got a great battle between Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. And once again, oh man, once again, an amazing battle. So fun to watch. But this time it was different because one, Max Verstappen finished the race, but two, it was Max Verstappen who ended up being on top. So, yes, Verstappen, the defending champion, his championship defense begins. He gets his first points of the season. He also gets his first win of the season in the second race of the year. Last year, this race at Saudi Arabia was the second to last race of the year, so a pretty quick turnaround in terms of when we were there last and where we are now, that kind of thing. But yes, a very quick turnaround in terms of when the drivers' teams have last been at Saudi Arabia. But of course, it is a completely different car. Different teams up front, different teams in the back, different teams in the middle. So much different look of today's field than it was back in December. I guess that was the first week of December. But yeah, an incredible battle between Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. I mean, it was incredible. The whole race, after the first safety car, there was a safety car on lap 15, I want to say, and Sergio Perez, who was leading. He had a great start, had pulled out to a 2-second lead. He lost the lead because of the safety car from a Nicholas Latifi crash, which then shuffled him back to third, and then he gave up third to Sainz because he passed him illegally on like the exit of the pits. But we'll look into that later. Anyways, then Charles was ahead of Max first and second, and Charles couldn't really pull away super far, but Max wasn't exactly closing in on Charles. It was staying in a probably 1.2 to 1.7, somewhere in that range. That's about where the gap was the whole time. Then the team radioed into Max at Red Bull and said, save your stuff, save your tires, save your energy, so we can make a late push at Leclerc. If we keep on doing this, we'll probably won't be able to catch him, that kind of thing. So Verstappen backed off. He started saving his stuff, and then there was a virtual safety car due to, what was it? It was the most bizarre thing. First, Fernando Alonso lost power in Sector 1, so he had to go all the way around the track to get back to the pits. And then Daniel Ricciardo coming off of the final turn, he lost power, and his car just decided to stop. And then all of a sudden, Valtteri Bottas pits, and he retires from the race. I mean, it was the most bizarre thing. 3 cars, 3 different teams, 3 different power units, all retire on the same lap. It was extremely bizarre. But this safety car allowed both Charles and Max to kind of save their stuff up. And Max, he was slowing down at the beginning of the safety car, and he was a couple seconds back. But then at the end of the virtual safety car, he caught up to Charles, and he was right on the border of that 1 second margin, and he was able to get within 1 second, which means DRS. There's 3 DRS zones at Jeddah, and boy, oh boy, they started playing chicken with DRS. That last kind of curved straight heading into turn 27, there's DRS there, and there's DRS on the long front straight. And first, Max Verstappen, like he did last week, and like what Charles did last week, is Max decided to send it. He used the DRS and he took the lead, but quickly after, Charles got DRS for the next straight, and he immediately retook the lead. So Max decided to reconsider his approach, and for the next few laps, on a straight where you're going very fast, the top 2 drivers were slamming on the brakes, jumping on the brakes, letting off the gas, whatever they had to do to make sure they were behind at that DRS detection zone right before turn 27 so they could get DRS on the front straight. And they did that for a few laps, and then finally Max Verstappen got close enough to Charles to where he was like within a car length or so, and then also he got DRS, so he wasn't ahead at the DRS detection zone, but he was close enough that he could get past Charles without Charles being able to fight back. And then for those last few laps, Charles had DRS on Max but could not make a move. Then there was a crash between Albon and Stroll, and no one slowed down. Like, half the field's being investigated. I think it's like Magnussen, Perez, Sainz, Verstappen, Leclerc, and a bunch of other people are being investigated for not slowing down during the yellow flag from that incident. And Charles had DRS. He sent it the last couple of corners but could not get it done, and Max Verstappen held on for his first win of 2022, his first win at Jeddah, his first win in the number 1 car, and of course his first win as the defending champion. And yeah, of course, terrible week last week for Red Bull. Both cars DNF in the last 3 or 4 laps. This week, it ends up being a first and a fourth. Sergio Perez, feels so bad for him. He was on the pole. He put together an amazing lap yesterday. Had an amazing start, was leading. Ferrari was trying, I don't know if, Red Bull was actually trying to pit there and, actually was pitting, or if Ferrari truly did say, hey, we're going to pit this lap, for the undercut. And then Sergio and Red Bull were like, actually, we got to cut that off. We got to cover that. And they pit, but regardless, they didn't know Nicholas Latifi was going to crash, and that screwed Perez because the safety car came out, and Perez ended up being third. But he was on the track, and Sainz had pitted, and, he somehow illegally overtook when Sainz was coming out of the pit lane, so he had to give that position back after the restart. And, he closed in really close to Sainz at the end there, but just could not quite get it done. Some other notables from this race, we talked about the retirements. We talked about the amazing battle for the race win. I hope we get to see that all season because we've seen it twice already this year, and they have both been amazing. But we had some other great battles between Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon. They had a great battle between teammates. They almost made contact a few times. Magnussen got in that battle. Bottas got in that battle. We saw the McLarens do much better this week. We saw the Mercedes, especially Lewis Hamilton, do much better than he was yesterday. He was involved in some fun battles, but unfortunately, just not a great day for him after that virtual safety car at the end. But let's look at the results. So, Max Verstappen is your winner. The Dutchman wins his 21st career win. His 21st career race, I should say. Once again, a great bounce back after last week and the struggle that they had. Just a terrible week last week. They were running so well, and then everything fell apart in those last few laps. But today, they get the win, execute everything perfectly, it seemed like, except for Perez in terms of the safety car. They got a pole position this week with Perez, and then obviously Verstappen drove great those last few laps, and he kind of toned down his aggressive nature that he usually has to make sure that he could overtake Charles and stay ahead of Charles to get that DRS on both straights. And, he really did. Other than that first send, I would say, with the DRS and where he allowed Charles to get back ahead, I would say he ran that almost perfectly. Charles had been the smarter one last week, and he was smarter in the first bit of this battle this week, but Max decided to play the same game, and he did just a little bit better at it today, so he wins. Leclerc, back-to-back podiums, back-to-back top two finishes. Got his third career win last week at Bahrain. Got a second-place finish today at Jeddah. A really good race for him in Ferrari. A double podium for the second straight week. Obviously would have wanted to be on that top step, but he does still lead the championship in the driver's side of things, and I believe Ferrari still leads in the constructors. Carlos Sainz, 3 straight podiums for Carlos Sainz. Back at Abu Dhabi last year, of course last week at Bahrain, and today he was in third most of the day. Other than that first stint, other than the safety, once that safety car came out, it really shuffled things up with those top runners just because it sent Perez from first to fourth. But Sainz, after that, he was in third most of the day. Perez had a late charge on him. He tried really hard, but could not quite get there. And it was Sainz getting third. A good day for him. He's going to be a huge help to Ferrari in the constructors' fight. But if he wants to get in the driver's fight, he's going to have to do a little bit better. But still, once again, a really good day for him and a really good start to the season with back-to-back podiums. Fourth, Sergio Perez. Man, he was looking so good at the beginning. He got a great start, was able to cover off the Ferrari on the inside. He was able to pull away. He had more than a 2-second lead, so he was out of that DRS range. And it looked like that first pit stop went so well. Latifi hits the wall. It was Latifi hitting the wall that helped Red Bull in the winter at Abu Dhabi. It's Latifi hitting the wall here that's hurting Red Bull in terms of Perez. He was so close. He had such a good car, such a good day going, but it's unfortunately fourth. It looked like it was going to be a podium for him. It looked like it was going to be a podium for him last week, and he had a race-winning car today, but unfortunately fourth for him. So him and Max swapped in terms of the finishing positions than what they qualified. Fifth, George Russell, really good day for him. I mean, kind of an uneventful day for him. He was fifth basically all day. He wasn't as good as the Ferraris and the Red Bulls, but he was better than the Alpines, better than Haas, better than Alpha. better than everyone else behind him. So he was just kind of like in that middle zone where he's not going to catch the top 4, but, you know, he's fast enough to be ahead of everyone else. So 5th for him. Solid day. He beat his teammate, though, so good for him. 6th place, Esteban Ocon almost got beat at the line for the 2nd straight race at this track, but held off Lando Norris for 6th. Last year, he lost the podium to Bottas at the last second, but he holds on to 6th. Him and Alonso were having a great battle early on in this race, almost collided a few times, but Alonso had some problems. They were both in the points, both running 6th to 7th, but Alonso falls out after a power problem late in this race. And yeah, Ocon has to get the points for the team, finishes 6th. Lando Norris, 7th, the first points for McLaren, much improved from last week for the McLaren team. And once again, first points of the season. 8th, Pierre Gasly, solid day for him. 9th, Kevin Magnussen. Back-to-back points finishes for him, back-to-back points finishes for Haas. I mean, a solid weekend for Haas, again, other than the Mick Schumacher crash, of course, but he is okay. He was at the track today. He talked to the media. He was with the team the whole day, and he is okay, so that was great news. But back-to-back points finishes for Haas, and imagine telling someone last year that Haas would have back-to-back finishes. And not only that, that the Haas would beat Lewis Hamilton at Saudi Arabia. That's right, Lewis Hamilton finishes 10th, a horrific weekend for him. Qualifies 16th, starts on the grid 15th, ends up 10th, getting a point. But it was a terrible, terrible weekend for him. And yeah, they got to get something going over there at Mercedes, because this was not it, especially on Lewis Hamilton's side of the garage. Russell did all right. He did what he needed to, but Hamilton, I really don't know if it's him. I feel like it's the car. It's got to be the car. But I really don't know, but just a terrible weekend for Lewis Hamilton. 11th, Zhou Guanyu. He had a 5-second time penalty, and then they got a second penalty because he didn't serve the penalty. Like, how do you forget to serve a penalty? 12th, Nico Hülkenberg. 13th, Lance Stroll was involved in an incident with Albon in this race. Albon kind of just sent it in there and turned Lance Stroll, and then Albon ended up not finishing. So only 13 cars finished today's race. Bottas, we talked about him. Alonso and Ricciardo all had mechanical issues late in this one. And then Latifi was in a crash, and Yuki Tsunoda did not even start. He didn't even get a qualifying lap in yesterday after having some issues, and today didn't even start due to an engine problem. So that is the final results of this race. Red Bull versus Ferrari. It has been fun. 2 races in. Verstappen versus Leclerc. If that's going to be the championship battle all year, it's going to be a really fun one, because the first 2 races have been amazing. But yeah, Jeddah, it's a unique track to say the least. We talked about those issues yesterday, but I won't get into that again. Next race, 2 weeks away at Australia. First time we are going to Australia since racing-wise 2019. Of course, the pandemic hit when they were in Australia in 2020, but first time in 3 years that cars will actually be racing in Australia. So I'm looking forward to that. Really, really looking forward to that. And if it's the Leclerc versus Verstappen again, it's going to be a fun one. Thanks for watching this. If you did like this video, leave it a like. It helps me out a lot. Subscribe to the channel. Also helps me out a lot. We're at, 1560 something. So, yeah. But hope you guys have a great rest of the day, great rest of the evening, great rest of the afternoon, wherever you are. And it's time to watch some NASCAR.